This is chapter number 2, from trade to territory. Now they have already crushed, subdued Marathas, Mysore. Now they started claiming the paramountcy, that is Sarvoch. Paramountcy, that if I take you to the early 19th century, that is, I'm talking about 1800 plus. Here, initially, company never wanted to be away from trade. They said, okay, we are just trading. Then they came for military attacks, aggressive. Now, this aggressiveness they enhanced. So they wanted to expand their territory. And here is a person I'm showing you. He is called Lord Hastings, Lord Warren Hastings. Now, when he was the Governor General from 1813 to 1823, he came up with a new policy, and this new policy was called paramountcy, and that is called Sarvochata. So he started this policy, niti. He said, we are at top, we are elite, we are on the top of the chain of power. That is, we are above all the Indian state, not Indian people, but Indian state. Okay, we have greater power, supreme power. Okay, now if something happens which affect our trade, that is, in order to protect our interest, company says, in order to protect our interest, it is always justified that we can take the state under our control, we can annex them, or we can threaten them that we are going to take your state if you come in between our interests, especially the trade interest. Right? This was the claim of paramountcy. What do you think? They are from foreign. People here, they will keep quiet. This paramountcy never went unchallenged. That is, people challenged it, people protested it. I'll give you an example. Rani Channamma. I'll come to Rayanna just now. Rani Channamma. So I'm writing RC for Rani Channamma. Now she is a very small state called Kittur. It's present day Karnataka. So she was the Rani of Kittur. That is a very small state. But when this paramountcy was imposed on Kittur, what she did? She took arms and she started a movement, anti-British resistant movement. But she fought bravely. But in 1824, she was arrested. And in 1829, Rani Channamma died. But soon after, this man, he is called Rayanna. Though he was not a powerful, he didn't come from a powerful background, but he was from Sangoli in Kittur, and he was just a poor chowkidar, right? A watchman. But he took that resistance that Rani Channamma started ahead. So he carried forward that resistance. So what Rani Channamma did, Rayanna, though he was a poor watchman chowkidar, he actually destroyed the British camps. He actually destroyed the British records, like the documents, etc. So he did that. But finally, this resistance came into end. And this paramountcy, Rayanna says, what kind of paramountcy it is? We are Indians. We hold this state. We are from here. How can you come and just kill us? How can you come and just take our state? But, everything ended in hanging of Rayanna. He was caught in just after 1 year, because Channamma, she died in 1829. Just after 1 year, Rayanna was hanged till death by the Hastings and East India Company. Right? Now, I'll take you some place else, because in late 1830s, what happened? It is not related to India. I'm talking about late 1830s. the company became very worried about Russia. Now, Russia was a superpower then, and the power was increasing, ever increasing. I'm not talking about today's Russia, the Russia which was combined Russia, USSR kind of Russia. So this Russia power, Russia might, British thought that Russia may increase their might or power and they may enter through northwest. So this is Russia, it is coming from here. So from northwest area, it may enter because others were also entering. They have seen the Dutch, the British, the French, the Danish, the others. Okay, so they don't want any confrontation with Russia. So they wanted to control this area. Whole northwest they wanted to control. That is the today part of Afghanistan and say Pakistan, that is Sindh and Punjab. So Afghanistan, so they wanted to secure it because they were worried about Russia. So what they did, first they had a very prolonged war, very long war with Afghanistan, and this was between 1838 and 1842. So this war was around 4 years, and finally they got the control. So now they established an indirect company rule, not direct. There was not company there, but indirect company control was there. Then they went to Sindh, just below Afghanistan there is Sindh. 1843 they got Sindh also, Punjab, that is the present day Pakistan area, most of the Pakistan area. So I'm just shifting it up because Afghanistan is at the top, below that is Sindh, and just below that we have Punjab. Now the next step was Punjab. So they also wanted to annex Punjab and rule Punjab. But Punjabis are no game. They are strong people. Punjabis, Sikhs, they are warriors. They are Singh, their name is warrior. Here was Maharana Ranjit Singh. Maharana Ranjit Singh, he held back the company. He was in front and company couldn't go ahead of him. You know, the power, the valor these Sikhs and Punjabis had, nobody can beat them. But the problem was 1839, Ranjit Singh, he died. And that was very unfortunate. And there were two wars. And finally, after so much of effort, see, after 6 years, Afghanistan they took in 1842. Just after that, Sindh they took in 1843. And it took them around 6 years to get Punjab. So 1849, they took control and they अधिग्रहण किया, annexed Punjab. Now let me tell you about Lord Dalhousie. I am talking about doctrine of lapse. So they were annexing. They annexed Afghanistan, then Sindh, then Punjab. They wanted to annex more. So this is the wave. This was the final wave of annexation or taking control of a territory. So Lord Dalhousie, what he did? They wanted to control. So Lord Dalhousie, he was Governor General of this Indian subcontinent from the company from 1848 to 1856. So in history, we have lot many people or lot many generals. Most of the general, they started something new, like we just talked about Hastings, and we talked about different before that. Now Lord Dalhousie, he initiated doctrine of lapse. Because they will make any policy to get control of Indian territory. So from 1848 to 1856, he was Governor General of India, Lord Dalhousie. So he created a policy, or he initiated a policy, doctrine of lapse, that is called Vilay Niti. In Hindi, it is called as Vilay Niti. So what does it mean? It was clear that they wanted their land, they wanted the territory. So this Vilay Niti was saying, if an Indian ruler dies without any prince, that is any male heir, the next male offspring in his kingdom would lapse. That is that area will become the part of company's territory. That is, there is no one to rule, so we will rule. That is what company said. So they used this doctrine of lapse. They took Satara in 1848. They took Sambalpur in 1850. They took Udaipur in 1852. They took Nagpur in 1853. And they took Jhansi Jhansi in 1854. So because of this doctrine of lapse they initiated, they took so many states. In 1856, they did what? They took this Awadh. This is the area I am showing. This is the Awadh area. So they took Awadh, but it was not like that they don't have any male hire. But they had a different argument here. They had an argument that this Awadh Nawab is not doing well with the people. This Awadh Nawab is not doing good governance. He is misgoverning. And now this is company duty, because they are doing good for the country. So this is their duty, company's duty, to overthrow this misgoverned state by the Nawab. So this is their duty to throw this Nawab out of Awadh. This is what their idea was. This is what their argument was. But this Awadh, people like Awadh Nawab very much. He was loved one. So finally, because of this argument, people were not taking this argument very, healthy, in a healthy way. So finally, the humiliation Awadh Nawab got because of Lord Dalhousie and doctrine of lapse. Finally, in 1857, when the great revolt took place, right? Because you are overthrowing their Nawab. So 1857 revolt. Finally, Awadh also joined this revolt because of this doctrine of lapse. Now, I want to show you this picture. Don't worry about the dates. Just worry about this yellow color. See, initially when they came, it was Calcutta, West Bengal and Benares area and some coastal area. Now, in few years, this every part of Indian subcontinent is yellow, 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 because they took control of most of the area. Okay, Indian subcontinent. Now coming of new administration, because if you want to rule, you have to have a good administration. So if you remember Mughal Samraj, in this we have Ijaredari, we had this Zamindari and Zaat, all these were there. So there was a kind of good governance which Akbar, Jahangir and etc. have provided. That is how they ruled for so many years. Okay. So now here we have Warren Hastings. He was Governor General from 1773 to 1785. Now in his regime, company had Bengal. Also along with Bengal, he had Madras also, today's Mumbai, and Madras and Bombay, today's Mumbai, and Madras, today's Chennai. So how they have divided? They have divided the whole of their area into three main presidencies. So these three main presidencies were Bengal, Mumbai and Bombay. So these were presidencies. Whole state is divided into this. Okay. Now these presidencies all have one governor. So there were three governors basically. And these governors, all these governors are reporting to a supreme head which was called as Governor General, GG. Okay. So Supreme Governor is Governor General. So three presidencies, and the Governor General at that time was Warren Hastings. Now Warren Hastings did something good also. He was responsible for various reforms, especially in the justice, Nyaya, in the field of justice. Let me tell you that in 1772, a new system of justice he initiated or was established. So what was that? In each district, there were courts, two type of courts. One was the Faujdari Adalat, that is a criminal court. That is, if some killing is done or some bad thing happened, so it is Faujdari Adalat. Small problems like women-men problem or some land problem, it will be in civil court, that is Diwani Adalat. So two courts in each district, criminal court and civil court. So Faujdari is for very heinous crimes and civil court for normal things. Normal, you will not call them as criminal. So now the head of his district was district collector. And this district collector was not Indian, he was a European district collector. So these district collector, and if you see that at that time Hindu Muslim, because mostly Muslims, the Maulvis were taking care of the rules and regulation of Muslims. Hindus were taking care of, Hindu Pandits were taking care of rules and regulation for the Hindus. So when the judges are there or district controller are there and they are European, they must know what is going on. So that they had this Maulvis also and Hindu Pandits also. Okay. But the criminal code, see, the criminal codes were still under Qazi and Mufti. So criminal code was under Qazi. Qazi is basically a judge, Nyayadhish. And this Mufti was what? A jury member of Muslim community, and he will give ideas to judge, that is Qazi. So Mufti will help Qazi to make decision, because Mufti is a knowledgeable person of Islam and the rules and regulation of Islam, the laws. Okay. So they had a very good idea, Mufti, and they will help Qazi. Qazi was the judge, right? So at that time, this was happening. So basic thing you have to understand is total area is divided into 3 presidencies: Bombay, Madras, Bengal. Okay, and all of them will have single governor, and top of them governor general. A district will have a district collector. There will be 2 courts: criminal court and civil court. And this is what you have to learn. And what happened? Warren Hastings, and it was he also went through an impeachment. Impeachment means people said that he misgoverned Bengal. He misgoverned Bengal. So impeachment is a trial by the House of Lords of England for charges of misconduct brought against a person in the House of Commons. So we have Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Also they have House of Lords and House of Commons. Now this name, please see, N.B. Halhead. His name will just come. Name will just come. Nath Bezi Halhead. Okay. So what happens here? The problem was because the Brahman Pandits. Now Garhwali Brahmins are different. The Bengali Brahmins are different. The Gujarati Brahmins are different. So what will happen is they will have their different interpretation of laws depending upon their local areas. Because they are coming from different schools of Dharma Shastra. The Dharma Shastra is Sanskrit text. Okay. So everywhere the Brahman Pandits will have different rules. So what will happen? Because the rules are different. So 1775, 11 Pandits were called and they were being asked that please compile for Hindus law. Because we want everywhere same law and same punishment. Okay. Because in India, all were Hindus. Today also you see 80% plus population is Hindu population only. So they wanted a common law for Bengalis also, for Bengalis Hindus also, and for Gujarati Hindus also. So 11 Pandits, they wrote in Hindi. Now N.B. Halhead, he translated this into English. Because the European wanted in English, because the European judge, they will only understand when it is written in English. So N.B. Halhead, as I said, his name will come, he translated this content into English. And by the Regulating Act of 1773, there was a new Supreme Court. It was established. Okay. And there were local appeal courts also, like the Sadar Nizamat Adalat, like we have session courts, etc. today. So these were also being set up in Calcutta. So these were certain justice-related reforms being done at that time. So let me tell you, in a district, the principal figure, the key figure is the district collector. District collector, as the name suggests, he will collect the revenue, the taxes, etc. Revenue, taxes, he will collect. That is why he was district collector. And along with the help of certain people, he will take care of the law and order. No danga, no fasad, no ladai, no jhagda. Okay, no fight. So law and order maintenance is the work of district collector only. With the help of darogas, the police officers, the judges, he will take care that law and order of that particular area district will be maintained. Okay. So district collector, key figure of a district. Now this office, collectorate. Let me write it here. The main office, which is the collectorate here, it became the new center of power. Previously, the previous holder of authority, it changed. Now it was replaced by the collectorate, basically the district collector. Okay. So anybody who wants power, he will be closer to this DC or collector. Now there are certain things which will come. Please understand. The company's army I am talking about. Okay. So before that, let me tell you, the colonial rule or the British Raj was totally, the power was with military strength. Because that is how they had Plassey, they had Buxar, and they controlled these Marathas and Tipu Sultan. So all these soldiers, the soldier on foot, it was the actual power of company rule. The soldiers. How did this come? Let me take you to history now. Now Mughal army, I take you back, Mughal army, if you remember Zat, how many Ghursawar, how many cavalry you have? That is the Savars, trained soldier on horseback. So how many cavalry is there? This was made in the Mughal Empire, Mughal Raj. So everyone was taught about this. They were given training in archery, tirandazi. Okay. These foot soldiers were not very important for Mughals, because whenever the fight is there, these people or foot soldier will get from whom? They will get from zamindars. They will get from sardars. Whomsoever are being given zamindari, those will provide the members on foot. So Mughal were never interested more in foot soldier. They were more interested in the soldiers on horseback, cavalry. Hope you understand. But now the things change. In British rule something changed. What happened? After Mughal Empire, after this Awadh dynasty was there, or the Nawabs and the Benares regime was there. So they did what? They started recruiting or giving jobs to the farmers. That you come here and will make you a professional soldier. That is, they were making these peasants and farmers as the soldier. This Awadh and Benares after Mughal Empire. Now, the company also followed the same. Means they didn't go to Mughal idea of cavalry, but they were more interested in the foot soldier. So they did what? They did the same thing. As Awadh and Benares were recruiting, East India Company also adopted the same methodology. They started recruiting these peasants and farmers. And they were giving jobs to them as Sepoy. Sepoy means Sipahi. Sipahi means soldier. In Hindi, we call a Sipahi as soldier. So they called them as Sepoy army. It was called as, this has come from Sipahi only. As you know, they can't spell everything. So Sepoy. So at that time, the warfare technology also changed. Because different colonies of British were not only in India, they were everywhere. So 1820, they don't require cavalry. It actually declined. They don't require these soldiers on the horseback. These British were fighting in Burma, Afghanistan, Egypt, and their soldiers were armed with muskets and matchlocks. So musket is what? It's a heavy armament. Heavy banduk. Infantry soldiers had a heavy gun. So musket is basically a gun. Okay, not a pistol, but a gun. So these were British soldiers. And matchlock means they were not no bullets, but they will put the powder and with a matchstick they will ignite it. Right now we have bullets, but at that time it was not bullet. Only they will put gunpowder and they'll ignite it. So these British were having muskets and matchlocks, and they were fighting against Burma, Afghanistan, Egypt, and various others. So now they don't require cavalry. Okay. So if you have this musket, why do you require a horse? You will just kill a horse using this musket. So if I take you to early 19th century, I'm talking about 1800 and plus. So the soldiers, these soldiers, I'm talking about the sepoy, so sepoy here, they were given proper training. They were trained. They were trained for discipline. They were trained for being an army man. They were trained for being a powerful man in a discipline. But the problem was the caste, creed, all these were not being taken care. For example, if you are a Hindu and you are given beef, not beef but cow meat, what will you do? If a Muslim is given pig or provided pig or anything related to pig, these are all beyond their comprehension because it is not in their religion. Okay. So the guy and the sewer, the pig and the cow, the Indian cannot even think about that. So that was the problem. They had sepoy and they were not thinking about the historical religious background. So that is how the revolt in 1857 it started. Okay, and this is the history, and we'll talk about this 1857 revolt in a stretch. It's a long thing. We'll talk about that. So let me conclude here that East India Company, it came purely as a trading company, no idea of ruling the country, but they controlled the colonial power because the ship would take 6 to 8 months, but because of the steamships, bhap ke engine, it would take just 2 to 3 weeks. That is around 3 weeks, 7 3 21 days. So they would come from UK to India. So now the army can come, the cavalry can come, the soldiers can come, the people can come. So if I can tell you, by 1857, 63% of the territory, Indian territory, and 70% of the Indian population, they were under the control of British rule. Almost, you can say, directly or indirectly, that is virtually, whole of India is under their control. Let me tell you about slave trade also. When the Dutch trading ships, when they reached the Southern Africa in the 17th century, this all slave trade began. So, the slave trade began in 17th century. What would happen? The people of this subcontinent or continent at that time, this Africa, they were captured, they were chained, they were sold in the slave market just like dogs and cats or like mammals, cows and others. If you know this 1834, when this was abandoned, slavery ended, more than 36%, the 36,000 slaves were there. Okay, you can imagine when it was being finished. So it's a very shocking story here that a mother is there and her kids and the husband, and this trading is going on. The woman is taking somewhere else, is bought by somebody else. The kids are being bought by somebody else. Can you imagine a mother in front of her eyes seeing the children going somewhere else? This all happened. Okay guys, this is all about this topic. I hope you have a good idea about this topic now. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.